Hara Yoshichiko for Japan. For the Soviets, Vladislav Hakimov.
This should be an interesting match, Fred. This is the match the Australians scored a few points on the Soviet in this weight class today. So I think maybe the Japanese in this weight class, I believe, defeated the American. Or if that was a... Yes, the Japanese in this weight class defeated the American today 6-5. And this Soviet loss, or beat the Australian, but the Australian did score points on it. I might add, this particular Soviet looks a little older than 20 years old. That's what he's knocked down to be.
Well, there's been some certain rumors flying around that some of the athletes look suspiciously older than 21. At any rate, we'll enjoy the wrestling.
That's right. No points scored yet. I don't know how much time has gone.
Good action in the...
Oh, very, very quick, very counter wrestling. No points scored, but there's lots of movement. And finally, the Soviet wrestler takes him down for 1 point. Soviet wrestler there is not doing anything. The referee should stand him up.
Okay, he stands them up. Yoshichiko of Japan, Hakimov of the Soviet Union. 1-0 for the Soviet wrestler. This is the first round of this bout. This is the Espoir World Cup of Junior Wrestling. The Espoir suggests hopeful. These wrestlers are hopefuls, Olympic hopefuls. Although they're a junior age category, they will be the Olympic wrestlers of the future. And the Soviet wrestler being cautioned there for not being aggressive enough, Derek?
He was blocking on the Japanese wrestler was trying to control his opponent so he can throw him. And the Soviet wrestler was blocking off the hip, pushing into his opponent, preventing him from doing his move. You have to let your opponent wrestle. You must go to the wrestle. The Japanese wrestler has a leg ride on his opponent, and he's trying to break him down to a flat position where he can move easier.
Japanese wrestler breaks out of that one.
But he's pushing off there, and the officials feel that he's being passive. He's not wrestling enough. They're going to give him a caution. When a wrestler gets a caution, they'll ask the attacking wrestler whether he wants his opponent to be up or down. And they'll choose that depending on the match strategy at the time. Like early in the match, you'll put him down, so you'll try to go for a 2-point move. If a wrestler is better at his takedowns than he is on his groundwork, the wrestler may elect to keep him standing. And if it's late in a match with your opponent having 2 cautions on him, they'll keep him standing so they can push at him to try to get him to keep backing away to get that 3rd caution. Ends the first round. The towel come bouncing up there, Fred, and the score is 1-0 for the Soviet. Very hard fought. There's a lot of action for only 1 point being scored.
There certainly is. I think you were mentioning this afternoon that, in fact, low scores are much more common at international level competition.
That's true. The wrestlers are just so tough. While there's only 1 point has been scored, these wrestlers have been spinning around here going full at it, but they've been counter wrestling. One fellow on an attack, his opponent counter attacks, and then the other guy will counter attack that defense. So it's continuous action, even though that only 1 point was scored.
The Soviets leading in this match, 3 boats to 1, and we're halfway through the 5th boat. 68 kilograms. We still have the big boys yet to come, and that is an entirely different kind of wrestling, as you'll see.
So big boys are slower, but they are extremely powerful men. A lot of these guys are 220 pounds with, like I said, but 12% body fat, which is very low indeed.
And when they hit the floor, the earth moves.
It's true. Speaking of the heavier weight classes, Fred, last year's world junior champion at the super heavyweight was a Canadian, John Tenta from BC. He was the first junior ever to win a Olympic championship or a world junior title, and he did that last year. I might add that John Tenta is 6'8" and weighs about 340 pounds. They're growing big.
Hard to imagine anybody being able to put him down, isn't it?
They're growing big in BC. Well, his matches in his final match was 2-1, I believe, to score. So he's quite a wrestler. So Canada has been improving their wrestling over the last few years.
2-0 the score in favor of the Soviet wrestler. Early in round 2.
Japanese wrestler now is trying to hook under his opponent so he can lift him off the mat and tip his balance. It's the object of wrestling, to upset your opponent's balance and then attack.
Soviet wrestler being cautioned now.
The mat official for this match is the Egyptian. They'll never let the officials, out of the 3 officials, they want to have an official from one of the countries that's involved. So right now we have a Canadian judge, an American mat chairman, and an Egyptian mat official.
I think a lot of slapping and that sort of thing going on there. The referee warning them against that.
Yeah, well, they're getting tired now, Fred, and they're pushing off there. The Japanese wrestler is down 2-0, and he has a score point, and the Soviet wrestler is just pushing off and waiting for an opportunity, maybe waiting for that second caution before he's action. They're in a position now, Fred, that you could watch. Well, there's an attempt at shoulder throw that slipped, and they stand him up. At this time in the mat, in the second round, it's very hard to throw because of the amount of sweat that's on the body.
And the throw is really what the Japanese wrestler needs at this point. He's 2 points down.
That's right. That's what he's going for. He's tying up, and he's going for that throw. He's going in for the tie-up. A lot of these Japanese wrestlers also have black belts in judo, and they can throw exceptionally well. But the Soviet is blocking them out. He knows that the Japanese got to go for the throw.
And they're being.
I think the Soviet wrestler has 2 cautions on him, Fred, and the mat chairman brought him over and told him that he's not quite being passive, but he's pretty close, and
One more caution.
One more
the
caution is
match
out.
now.
Sometimes officials will do that because it's not quite passive. As you can see, they're both. There is a lot of action there. The Japanese wrestler kept moving after the whistle there. Both wrestlers going. They're going really hard out there now, Fred. There's not much time left.
Neither can afford a caution, and of course the Japanese
That's
wrestler
right.
needs those points.
This is getting rough out here now. The Japanese wrestler is continually going under his opponent, trying to lift him up for that big throw, and the Soviet wrestler is going to the legs because he's afraid a throw is guaranteed to be 2 points, maybe 3 or 4. So the Soviet is going to attack the legs. The Japanese guy is going to try to throw. I wish we could see the time on this, Fred.
Seems like a very long round, doesn't it? And here comes the towel. That's the match, 2-0. Hard-fought battle between the Soviet wrestler and the Japanese wrestler. 4 matches now to 1 for the Soviets.
A lot of action for just 2 points being scored there, Fred, but there was a lot of action.
And both wrestlers indicating by the expressions on their faces and the fatigue that they've really been in a bout.
That's right.